Ooh, okay. Hello, I'm back making another video. This one's gonna be a little different, a little fun, little artsy, not artsy, just gonna be using a pen and paper, Sharpie and paper, pen and paper. So artsy, without the art. Anywho, I just want to talk about some of the things I'll be talking about in this video for a quick post-cap recap preview. I'd like to talk about because I was kind of always involved in movies and stuff for culture in my life. I'll bring up movies today, show the relevance and how they're part of a bigger picture, I believe, because we're going to be talking about keys in our reality, puzzle pieces in our reality, things we look for in our day, not really look for in our day-to-day lives, but we notice in our daily lives. We don't ever make the connections until something happens, or else we're always thinking about it, feeling there's some connection in things, and that's where like the strings connect, and we have, you know, the pins of the common conspiracy theorist kind of look. We're also going to talk about how religion is involved and science is involved a little bit, kind of touch on that, and then the what we know about how the people that with all the knowledge share stories and information coded through any type of medium or media we or kind of communication device to us, to where there's a message behind it, and we kind of always known that because of just how certain things in the past. And I have this board up just because I want to give a small illustration. It's not a board, sorry, it's a piece of paper stuck to a board my grandfather built, a beautiful piece of wood. I just wanted to give a good visual interpretation of how I guess my brain slowly assembled things over the years of what I kind of got out of everything. So, the first thing I'd like to talk about is how I always enjoyed movies. I always loved movies. I always, enthralled by the characters. So that was kind of one of my passions because I was very visual and emotion driven and sucked into the stories and really became a part of all that when I was a kid. And it still stayed with me. I really enjoyed movies, like everything about it. Renting movies as a kid, going to the movies as a kid, renting movies as an adult, going to the video store with my wife was the best thing ever, and we'd go and pick and choose and watch and critique and enjoy or hate, but it was just part of our lives. So it was something that gave me lots of information to kind of deduce, to absorb the overall message that I guess kind of flowed in over time, and my subconscious mind was able to pick up on some ideas, but it really took, certain things happening later in life for you to go, huh. I mean, not just the stuff we're being told, like, in the conspiracy theory movies, but like how much bigger it actually all is than that. So I'd like to start off talking about some important actors I believe helped influence me to find something to what I call parts of puzzle pieces. It initially starts as like you're building a puzzle inside your brain. So the way I kind of figured it is like all movies kind of had a big kind of overall theme that seemed to contain some kind of a message, and I'll start to write one of them. False world or reality, and this is just kind of a floating idea of a false world. One more I will add is going to call time. We all kind of know we know what time is when we refer to something as time, like hours, minutes, years, whatever. We'll work with that for now. So that'll be its separate little thing. And one of the other things is time being an illusion, basically, is what it kind of comes down to, it seems like. And then the other would be our soul, or the subconscious. We'll go. That's a big long word, and I don't want to misspell it on the fly because I have a hard time spelling it in general. I think autocorrect has destroyed me. So there's our soul and our subconscious. So what other thing? I'm going to put in one thing that is essential for everything to exist, like gravity, as they say, is love. like gravity, love attracts. Love is powerful. Love can be many things. They say love is the same frequency in our mind as fear. So, and we do make so many choices based on love, out of love, but are kind of shown up as fear. I mean, even as anger. So that's our other kind of point in this whole thing. So as of right now, they're all on the same piece of paper, but they don't really connect. So that's where the actors come in to make our puzzle pieces. So we have movies like, we'll start with Robin Williams because he's one of my favorite actors. We'll go Robin. And we will put him in here on this one because he's Peter Pan. He's, gave us kind of insights into things like that. And we can also put him over here as part of this piece in time because what does, some of the characteristics of Peter Pan and I love the one Final Cut that he's in where he gets to review all the footage of people's like implant in their brain records and he gets to kind of cut it down for the family to view at the wake and the funeral and whatnot to say it's like, oh, it's a great movie, Final Cut. So another, little addition to that. There's obviously like Patch Adams. I think they'll touch a little bit on the soul for Robin, on the soul part too. So there, and then just to keep this simple, I'll only use a couple more actors to help fill in these blobs. This is how I kind of slowly did this over decades of existing as a human being obsessed with movies. Not obsessed with movies, but I mean, I guess they were my wallpaper when I worked at a video store when I was able to get my first job, about movie posters and whatnot because I gave them away. Well, we'll go with Ed Harris. Ed Harris. Him and Jim Carrey are pretty tied together in a couple of these just because I think they were really good at being participants in helping spread the message. So we're going to write, Ed Harris because of movies like Westworld. I mean, I know that's an old one, but he still participated in the remake of the one that probably became most popular is the series on HBO. So to really get some of that kind of thinking kind of beaten into us a little bit. Let's see, we'll throw them in with time just for the one of like the Truman Show and same for Westworld as well. We won't go into, I guess we could put Ed Harris in Love because The Abyss. The old movie The Abyss is where she was dead. He brought her back. I mean, well, I'll let people go with that, but I just think The Abyss was a really good one. That was a long time ago. That helped, open up people's eyes to some of the stuff that are probably going to be, more than likely possible to need to be accepted when it comes to, that there could be giant civilizations of whatever, I'm not going to try and influence people by saying things, but, our oceans are vast and deep. So we'll do Ed Harris in The Abyss. I don't know why I wrote The Abyss. Well, let's put it on here. Ed Harris. So you see how this is kind of shaping out a little bit of something that looks strange, but that's kind of how it is in your head. It just kind of starts clicking a little bit. And then, okay, we're going to add Jim Carrey and Harrison Ford into this mix to kind of finish out the pieces. Harrison Ford. So we'll put him, we can go HF for him. So Blade Runner is one of the better ones I like to use out of his catalog of movies, his filmography, other than Star Wars and whatnot. Because Star Wars is probably the perfect version of the best modern adaptation of some the hero's journey, which is, everyone knows about the hero's journey somewhat. It's the 12 steps of going through all the worlds, the ordinary world, the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, meeting the mentor, crossing the threshold, tests, enemies and allies. That 7, approach the innermost cave. 8, the ordeal, death, and rebirth. 9, the seizing of the sword. 10, the road back. 11, the resurrection. 12, the return with elixir. So, I mean, it's, in the book of Thousand Faces, Josh Campbell, right? Yeah. He looked through all history, to find that was the most common theme. And it's like a formula, though. It's so metaphorical and so deep in its whole meaning in itself that, the Book of a Thousand Faces is just all those stories combined into one, and then this based on this formula. So all these stories like Harry Potter and Star Wars and all these things can kind of follow that formula and have everyone just sucked in because it's the perfect formula, because it is the formula. It's kind of how it all goes, even for all of us as we live our lives and ascend. And so I didn't want to do that one with Harrison Ford, but I wanted to take one part away from, and the Indiana Jones things. There's so much to unpack in that whole series of movies, because, as you slowly watch them, you're like, oh man, it's all that has so much relevance to the real world, but we're just hidden from it. The Ark of the Covenant is literally just a radioactive containment chamber for the tech of the gods, based on holding the spear and the Holy Grail. And it's like, well, if it's got, radioactive blood or radioactive material still attached to that, it's like, then it's going to kill people that are in close contact. So be far away, maybe don't look at it, or, just so there's so much metaphors to unpack in the Indiana Jones movies that I think that, needs a separate thing. Pardon me. Tea. I don't want to start coughing on camera and then ruining the microphone. So, but I wanted to focus on Blade Runner, because when I first had my awakening and it was realized that there's some things about this world that aren't really real and fleshed out, when it comes to individuals, using words like, you start hearing words like soul container. It's like, well, soul container. It's like, well, it's before a soul develops. It's like, oh. And then you start learning other things, and it's like, it's like in the way he's interviewing people. It's like, I guess, that's why a lot of people go on these spiritual journeys by themselves, or do awakenings by themselves, or do certain things have to be done alone, because just like in the movie, he's inspecting for something that needs to be inside these people for them to realize they're real. And, someone were to be on a spiritual journey with someone else, or doing something with someone else, and they realize that the other person is, lacking something. It's like, then it's not going to be the most pleasant experience, I guess, when people come to find that out. So I think that whole searching for, in Blade Runner, when he's searching for, people who have pure consciousness or souls and original humans, and not, I think has, relevance today when it comes to picking out those who think individually for themselves and have developed past those 3 levels of density. First being, I think what's it? Can I eat that? Yeah. First is, can I eat that? Second is, can that eat me? And then you're in second density. The third one, a little harsher, but can I mate with that? And third density, with us walking around. We can see people probably ending up in a lot of trouble if that's all that's running in their system. Being the artificial intelligence of the mineral world, as Mateus calls it. It's like, if you don't have any moral code given to you by, like, 10 Commandments or a religion, which was needed, very needed, to help guide people farther than just those 3 things. Can I eat that? Can that eat me? And can I mate with that? It's like, you need morals given to you so you don't destroy society and become an awful, awful person, if you don't go beyond those. So that's when we just start to develop our ego, it sounds like, which is giving us moral compasses, what's right and wrong, how we value ourselves, how we value others. So it's the importance of the whole soul searching thing in Blade Runner. It's like, it almost makes sense why the movie is so slow at times. It's like, you really got to be thinking about what they could be best telling us. Because I think, when you add Jim Carrey and, we'll just do JC, JC, and Harrison Ford to a couple of these, we kind of get our puzzle pieces kind of fleshed out. I'll make them look really ugly because they're not supposed to fit together on this paper because I can't cut the paper and make them stick together. Plus, they're not going to fit together like we think anyway. And I'll explain, I guess, what I mean by that. If we have the other parts of our body and brain that kind of get together and they fill in these other little tidbits and these other little tidbits of, science and religion and life experiences and some, ones that are shaped like music notes. Why not? Because we got a lot of weird gaps to fill. So we got some, ugly music notes that fill in holes because they're music. But anyway, everything kind of eventually starts to come together. I don't need to draw that. But everything starts to kind of come together in your head one day. Once you kind of open your mind up and have some, someone kind of maybe hand you the last couple pieces you're missing. And you're holding on to something. You're holding on to pieces of something and you click them together and you're thinking and you're contemplating and you do a little research and it's like, what is all this? And then one day everything, like either someone hands you a couple pieces and it's like, here, you've been putting together a puzzle and it's not a puzzle. And you just look at it and you're holding a key. And the key you're holding, you're like, what does this key do? And you realize it's the key that unlocks the rest of your mind. And once you figure that out and stick the key in your head and grind the gears to turn that thing, it unlocks so much in your mind that it connects all the dots to where you're like, are these actors aware of the message that's being portrayed through multiple decades of all this media we've been absorbing? Are they aware of it? Are the writers aware of it? Is anyone aware, or are they just all being guided? They can be following the hero's journey structure to make it enthralling, but is there someone alive, the editors, the cinematographers, are they aware that they're sending the message slowly, trickled to us over time, or just are they repeating the message all at once and we only absorb little bits of it? Like, are the actors aware? Are the directors aware? Or is there really some divine guidance that's really the big director of in each, production company that's like, all right, we need to put off 10 movies that each movie has this small little aspect to it to get the message across. So if everyone watches all these, they'll have a decent part of a puzzle piece or a decent part of a key. That's what I believe, because it almost seems like it's so big and long and drawn out. And that's why they keep having to remake the same movies over again. It's because they need to send the same messages little by little trickled in there. Like Nostradamus' quatrains. It had to be diluted and hidden and kind of message, or else if it's too blatant and clear, then people freak out and it's like, oh, no, no. But if it's diluted and kind of trickled in with everything, I think that's the plan. But they really need to get it to the masses. They need to just really trickle it out there, and those willing to, or with the brain in the back that's like picking up little pieces and whatnot, and every once in a while someone gets it, gets things. I'm not saying that I'm smarter than anyone, but I do know that there was a couple things I did to my body to make things work better in my brain. And you can look it up. I don't know, I believe it was fluoride calcifies the pineal gland, which the pineal gland is in control of lots of stuff, and it lets the two sides of the brains talk to each other. They can't talk to each other, they're like separate, the subconscious and the conscious mind. But when they can talk to each other, it seems like you can have conversations with yourself and actually get some results out of it, not just yelling at yourself for hitting your toe on the couch or something. And it's also kind of when you get that key in there and turn it, it not only unlocks and connects all the things that you've been thinking about and been conspiracying in your head, and but it also lets you go back on so many points in your life, your individual life, that like connect all the dots, all the things you've had happen. You start making sense of all of it, the relationships you've had. You connect like what you were supposed to learn from it, what you did going through everything. And it's like, and then you can use that to like shut off all the doubting and all the second guessing you do in your sleep or later in your day. And it really helps go forward too. Um, and I think it's that part that people call the spiritual awakening, is when you can see all this, when you unlock your mind to kind of see the truth, so you can't really be deceived. You kind of you're still open to learning, but when something doesn't feel true and right, and it's you can tell someone's feeding you shit, you can tell someone's feeding you shit because it just doesn't add up. It doesn't line up. It doesn't resonate, as they say, and you just don't absorb it. But you can be confident going forward, knowing that when you listen inside and when you follow your instinct and intuition, and not be, strayed by the false fears that your eyes see based on fear that's not there, or, dangers that aren't there, you can be a lot more confident going forward. And that is like the best, is not being afraid on the choices you make, because it all has a purpose. If you just kind of listen inside and kind of trust your gut and your heart and all that. So that's kind of my whole thing on the movies and the finding the keys. I'm pretty sure everyone has their different kind of specialty. It could be art, it could be comics, it could be magazines, it could be sitcom. I mean, the messages are everywhere, packed into everything. I mean, every single video game my kid's been playing lately, or I've been trying on this new device, um, it's like they're all about light and journeying from a galaxy far away to come and save humanity by spreading light and love. And it's kind of cool that way. Like the game developers almost seem to be influenced by the same things as all the other writers and directors throughout the decades, trying to tell us that there's something inside of us that's bigger than we ever believe, and our minds are more powerful than we imagine. And, so yeah, I just wanted to share this, and hopefully my crude art, see, told you, it wasn't going to be art. Hopefully that maybe makes some sense of some things in our heads that we think are crazy and whatnot. I mean, I didn't even get into Keanu Reeves because that's a little too obvious. But even though there's a part of our brain called Neo, and yeah, let's another time. But I'd say I'd recommend, talking about movies, I'd recommend two movies. One's a documentary called Jim and Andy. Rewatching that is a trip after having an awakening because of what happens. Jim and Andy. And also, I just love the way they did it. I can't remember what it's on, but it's called Slaughterhouse. It's a horror movie about a killer sloth in a sorority house with college sorority girls. And the reasons I say this movie is amazing, and I'll say it is amazing, it keeps you drawn in. It is a horror movie, so it's got little jump scares and whatnot, but the tastefulness, that how they executed it, is something so many other like production houses should marvel at. How, think about it. I have young daughters. I love that they can watch this movie and not I don't feel uncomfortable about what these producers, directors, and camera people and wardrobe personnel have put on screen to give a great watching experience where you don't have to feel like it's big Hollywood making things not as positive and grotesque and inappropriate as they can be, and still have a great time watching a movie. So that's just a fun little addition to the end to kind of end on a fun note. But yeah, Jim and Andy and Slaughterhouse is just funny. So I hope this maybe helps anyone with their keys, finding keys. They're all over, and I think it really helps unlock some hidden potential in all our brains once we're able to connect some dots outside and then inside ourselves. So I'll end this one with a thank you, everyone, if you made it to the end. If not, thank you anyway. So take care. Love you all. Much love and light. Good night.